Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing? 5 potentially offensive British words. I can think of one. It's probably the number one, you know, the cigarette thing. But what are the other 4? I mean, I don't even know if that's in this list. I just have to assume. That's the quintessential example of a word that is offensive over here in America. But you know, in Britain, it's just a word. It's just a word. What's wrong with it? It's just a cigarette. Anyway, Love English with Lila and Sabra. Check them out. Link down below. I'm excited for this.
So, today's lesson...
I'm also hoping this video doesn't get, like, blocked or something, you know what I mean? These are within a British context, YouTube.
Super simple. Looking at 5 words. 5 words that, when said in the UK, absolutely fine. Quite acceptable, but if you are using them, well, not just in the USA, in America, but also with an American speaker, they could land you in a bit of hot water, meaning...
Yeah, you better be careful. You say these words around me, you're going to be in hot water. I'm just kidding. Imagine.
So, the last that I'm going to share with you is a faux pas, an error that I have made with language and an American that I really think was potentially very offensive and certainly quite rude. So I want to share my experience with you as well there. And I would love you to share any stories that you have where you have made a similar error, a simple case of using a word that in British English is...
Well, to be honest, I've never spoke to a Brit in my life. I've never met one, so...
perfectly acceptable, perfectly...
I'm sure if I had, I'd say some stupid shit, but I haven't.
...okay to use. But with Americans, it might not be the right thing to say. So let's have a look. 5 super simple, basic words that really could cause a little bit of offence.
I'm ready.
Number 1, rubber. Now, you could make this even worse by asking someone, have you got...
What's kind of funny is that's only offensive, like, within that context of saying, like, hey, this word could be offensive. Because normally rubber, it's just, it's a material.
But a big rubber. I need a large rubber.
Okay, now what the hell does that mean?
Now, ordinarily in the UK, this is not a problem.
Oh, it's an eraser, isn't it?
In the UK, a rubber...
Turning this off.
...is an eraser. When you've written something in pencil and you want to remove it from...
Okay, but it's also just a material, right? Or is it not? Yeah, know what I mean? Like a tire is made out of rubber.
...the paper, you can use a rubber. But in American English, a rubber is not referring to an eraser, something that you use at school, at work. It's referring to a condom. Yes, so if you ask for a large...
But it's slang for a condom.
...rubber as well, then you're really going to land yourself in hot water. This is such a small difference.
That's better than asking for a small rubber.
...difference in language, but rather than offend, it would probably be quite entertaining if you make this mistake. But still, depending on the situation, if you're at work, you might not want to make this mistake. So just be aware... in British English.
If anybody at the work has a problem with that, and you obviously have an English accent and they have a problem with that, then they can suck it and you should find a new job.
Rubber in American English.
That should be a great source of laughter.
Eraser. Number 2, a word that actually we use both versions of in the UK, but probably more commonly used, referring to a pacifier. In American English, or a dummy in British English. So I have a 2-year-old son. He had a dummy when he was younger, and that was perfectly acceptable. But dummy in American English means stupid. It's more commonly used to refer...
I will say, actually, I mean, she's right. That's true. It can mean like a stupid person. It's also kind of like the nicest way of calling someone stupid. Like, it's like, oh, you dummy. Like, normally it's being kind of playful. It's not very serious. But there's also a sucker, lollipop, which people call suckers here. Maybe that's one of those words that, it could be flip-flopped. Maybe that would be offensive anyway. There's a sucker called a dum-dum. And if you were saying that in the context of like what she's saying, a dummy, people might just think you meant a dum-dum, like a lollipop. Did I just make any damn sense?
To a stupid person. In the UK, we would normally call someone that's stupid an idiot. Either way, it's pretty offensive. But just so that you're aware, in case there's any confusion, that's the difference. So you don't want to be asking for a dummy if you're in America.
You might get a lollipop.
You'd be asking for somebody who's stupid. Has anyone seen a dummy around here? Has anyone seen an idiot? Right, number 3. Now, oddly enough, I knew what the American word meant, but actually didn't know what the British version meant. So,
how's that?
Hooker. When I say hooker, what do you think of? Yeah, I think most of us would probably think of this as referring to a prostitute. However, in rugby, a sport traditionally played, well, everywhere, we're not too bad at it in the UK. The Welsh are pretty good as well.
I forget what it means in rugby, but I know it's a term.
But essentially, a hooker is a position in a rugby team. Right, so a hooker...
player who pulls the ball out of the scrum with his foot.
...is a forward who wears the jersey number 2. They're in the front row of the scrum, and their primary role...
I didn't know the jersey numbers indicated like what position you are. That's
in the scrum is to hook the ball with their feet, apparently. If you know anything about rugby, you will probably understand what I said better than what I did. So, hooker, prostitute, most commonly used in America, but also used in real, because you could be insulting someone if you said, wow, I didn't realise your dad's loaded, or your parents are loaded. Now, if you say this in America, then...
I mean, that would be kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie, if you said, I didn't know your dad was loaded. That could be taken in kind of like a weird way, but it does mean rich. It's just weird that you're saying, oh, your dad is loaded. Like, it's like, wait, what do you mean by that?
Then your friend might think that you're talking about their parents being drunk, okay? That they've drunk too much alcohol, that they're intoxicated.
Okay. That's a stretch. I'd probably just think you meant rich.
So in the UK, however, we actually use loaded to refer to someone being rich. It's colloquial, it's slang. If someone's loaded, they have a lot of money. You might see someone with a particularly expensive...
I mean, it works kind of either way here in America. It's basically like you're loaded with something. You can be loaded with cash. You can be loaded with alcohol.
A car, or, I don't know, expensive jewelry, clothes, designer clothes, whatever it might be, and say, wow, they look loaded. But if you say this in America, you're suggesting that they're drunk, which could be insulting. It's certainly confusing. So I would love to know, any Americans out there or speakers of American English, would you confuse that? Would you think if I said loaded, I'm referring to someone being drunk or
I would not.
rich? I'm curious to know how familiar American English speakers are with the term loaded in English.
I would say it's just as often, maybe even more often used to mean rich here in America. Like, it totally depends on the context, I guess.
Right, and number 5, there's a little bit of a story to go with this. I hope you enjoy. I moved to Portugal.
Is it about the cigarette?
A year ago, and I initially met a very lovely woman with a son the same age as mine. We met for coffee, we took the children with us, and her son was playing on the floor. He was walking around, you know, as toddlers do, wobbling about. But he was picking up lots of things. And one of the things he was picking up off the floor were what I referred to as fag butts. So this is me speaking.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about the fact that a cigarette has a butt. Oh my God,
That makes it just even worse. I didn't think it could be misconstrued even worse, but the fact that a cigarette has a butt, unlucky.
Speaking quite casually using English slang. Now, an American, when they hear that, butts, there's two things going on.
I'm very curious how YouTube interprets that when it hears it, because you know, like, YouTube listens to all the words in the video. That's creepy, of course. But when it hears that, is it like, okay, this video is 18 and older? Or does it understand that that is not, you know, that's just a cigarette butt? I'm genuinely curious. I guess I'll find out.
Here, butt, okay, can refer to the base of the cigarette, the end of the cigarette that's been discarded, that's been thrown away, and or as well, but in this case I'm referring just to it is actually...
Wait. Can you add the G-O-T to the end of it and still mean cigarette?
A very derogatory, disgusting term to refer to someone who is homosexual, who's gay.
Indeed.
It's a word that I would absolutely hate anyone to...
Like, I can't even say it. Like, it's one of those words, to be honest. It's like one of the two words here in America. You know, there's one word worse than it that you could think of, but that word right there is, it's up there. It is up there.
To use, I would never use it to refer to somebody in this way. It's disgusting. It's a horrible, horrible word. But in my innocence, with my...
I will say people used to say it all the time, though.
English, colloquial English slang, I referred to a cigarette as a which is perfectly normal in the UK, but in America it would be a derogatory name for a gay person. So not a word you want to use.
I figured that would be the top of the list.
A word that could be highly embarrassing with the wrong people and certainly offensive.
I still can't get over. But how did I not think of that?
So, but, okay, of course also referring the gay part, and then but referring to bottom.
Got that.
Arse. In the UK, we'd often say arse.
That would be a weird thing to say, I'll say that.
In the slang. In America, I think you say ass. But is also bottom. So I said but, meaning this, but the connotations,
I love how she keeps saying it over and over. It's really funny.
Imagery that it conjured was probably something quite different. So embarrassing for me, humorous, thankfully, for my friend, but still something to be
Anybody should find that funny,
aware of. So
even someone who was gay would probably find it funny. Like, if they knew, you know, that's just, they knew what your intention was. They'd be like, oh my, just so you know.
Let me know, have you made these mistakes with any of the words I've just shared, or is there another word that I have missed? An English word that's perfectly innocent in the UK, but in America, but, not buttocks or butt. But in America, could be very offensive.
Oh my gosh. That was a great list. Check them out. Love English with Lila and Sabra. That's like the longest YouTube name I've ever seen. So I keep reading it. It's like a whole sentence. Link down below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.